I want to go to a former criminal defence lawyer and a current chairman of Southbank Capital, one of the luminaries of Melbourne legal circles, Mr Francis Galbally, who joins me now from Melbourne. Francis, I have to say there's been more extraordinary evidence provided today in these closing submissions from the various parties in the Coate inquiry. What are your concerns tonight, having now heard all of this additional information and clarifications, in fact, continued statements from police asserting clearly in evidence to this inquiry that a decision was made, that it was not a creeping assumption?
Well, a creeping assumption is rubbish. It can't be a creeping assumption. The only collective responsibility that was ever allowed was Albert Speer in the Nuremberg trials when he got off the death penalty because he said he accepted collective responsibility. But it's rubbish. And we've seen it gets worse by the day. Daniel Andrews is taking all Victorians as fools. He is so disrespectful to us, it beggars belief. I mean, to think that we actually believe they didn't know what happened, that he didn't make the decision, it's just rubbish. And it needs to be properly examined now. And now that we have these conflicts, I mean, what he did to Jenny Makakis is just disgraceful, dishonourable, in fact. He threw her under a bus, and that just should not be allowed to occur. And now she's come out.
Francis Galbally, let me just pick you up on that point. I want to amplify that she has put in a closing submission today. I find that as an extraordinary step from a former minister. But she makes a number of allegations in relation to the veracity of other ministers' testimony, if I could be kind there, at the Coate inquiry. She talks about a lack of cabinet governance and decision-making. Are you surprised that the Coate inquiry, when asked to by the opposition, wrote back and declined to recall Jenny Makakis and indeed the Premier to deal with this conflicting or appearance of conflicting evidence?
Well, I am surprised, but their powers may well be limited, and that's the problem here. We have an inquiry set up by the Premier, who keeps saying, I won't answer your question because there's an inquiry. He set the rules for the inquiry. He's the person who governs it. So the inquiry is limited by the rules he set. We need a Royal Commission. I've said it before on your program, Peter. We need a federal Royal Commission into quarantine in this country, and it needs to start in Victoria. So I'm not surprised. If you look at what Jenny Makakis said to the Commission just recently, she's revealed an email nobody's been questioned about, which shows there was a decision made and people knew the decision was made. It's a disgrace. This could well end up being...
The only one who's... Sorry to interrupt.
I was just going to say, Peter, this will end up being the greatest whitewash we've ever seen.
Francis Galbally, I have to leave it there. Thank you for your time and your continued attention to this issue.
Thank you, Peter.